So I originally had a client come to me and ask me, how could I go about creating a front-end form submission on a WordPress website? Well, I said, that's pretty easy. However, they also said, I really want my end users to be able to manage and edit their content also from the front end. Now that isn't quite so simple and straightforward. Well, until I found a plugin that does just that. Best of all, it's completely free. So in this video, I'm going to demonstrate how we can take this plugin alongside advanced custom fields on a site that I've set up on a real estate business, and how we can use that in conjunction with each other to create a nice, simple way of allowing them to add new content and also edit their content after the fact. We're also going to tie this in to a completely free plugin called Elementor Custom Skin. And I'm going to show you can use these two free plugins together to create a really nice, simple interface that will list all of the properties, but only show the edit button to the relevant logged in user with the right permissions so they can quickly and easily edit their content, all on the front end of the website. If this interests you, join me as I take you through the entire process. Well, my name is Paul C. This is WPTuts, the channel where I help you get more from WordPress. If this is your first time on the channel, please consider subscribing and smashing that bell icon below to be notified every time new content is added. Okay, so we're going to jump over to the dashboard now in WordPress, and I'm going to show you what plugins we've got set up, how ACF is configured, and then how we can go through and start working with this free plugin to create this front-end dashboard. So let me just quickly demonstrate the type of form and the kind of information you can pull in. Now this is just an example, it's not what we are going to recreate, but it's a good example of the types of fields, the information and the data you can link through. So if we take a look, you can see at the top we've got some of the normal post types. Even though this is a custom post type with a custom, advanced custom fields and meta fields and all those kinds of things, we can still reference some of the key normal post elements. So for example, the title, the content, which is a fully editable area. Then we've got some custom fields like vehicle prices. We've got a taxonomy listed through for the manufacturer. We've got things like drop-down lists so we can pick and choose what we want from there. And if we scroll down, we've even got things like a repeater region so we can add as many new options as we want to this particular post type. Like I say, this is just an example, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you into the dashboard of the site we're going to be working on and just go over some of the things before we start creating this form. Important things you need to make sure, otherwise you could run into some problems. So if we jump back over into the dashboard, I've got the plugin already installed, and all we need to do now is open up the page we want to work on. But before we do that, let's just check a few things out. First of all, we're going to come into the custom fields. So I'm going to open my field group up. And inside there, you can see I currently have two different field groups. We're going to focus on the property details. So I'm going to click to open that up, and we have a normal ACF layout. Now you may see some things inside here that you're not used to. Things like these tabs that allow us to group different ACF fields into a logical order. And if you'd like to find out more about this, or you'd like to see the entire video on how I created this real estate website, I'll drop a link in the description below so you can take a look at that. It's a long video, but it covers a ton of really useful information. So those tabs are there just to separate things out. They don't have any data associated with them. So when you see these little separator lines and the tab for gallery, agent details, and so on, just consider them as just being a separator. What we do have to make sure, though, is that any taxonomies that we want to use inside this form have to be set up inside ACF as well as the CPT UI. So I created them as I normally would through Custom Post UI. Now I just need to replicate those inside my ACF fields, and we need to set up some different parameters to what you may be used to. So let's just take that as an example. We've got property type, which is a taxonomy, as you can see listed by here. So if I open this up, all the normal things at the top expect field label, field name, field type, and so on. We then have some checkboxes or some yes and no options that we have to make sure we set correctly. You can see it says show only on front end. We set that to yes because we don't want a duplicate taxonomy section inside the dashboard of WordPress. We only want to make this available on the front end as part of that form. So make sure that you set show only on front end for these taxonomies. We then have the taxonomy we want to choose from. So I've set that to property type, but you can expand it. You can see you've got the normal category tags and so on that are part of WordPress, and any custom taxonomies you set up. In my example, things like property type and special. You then have the option for the appearance for this as well. And like I say, this is just how it appears on the front end of the site. We have 4 options. We can choose from multiple values, which is a checkbox and a multi-select, or we can choose single values, which is a radio buttons and select. It's up to you how you want to use this based upon the way that you have your taxonomy set up. For me, multi-select is what I want to use. We then have the option to allow null. Normally, you'd set this to be no, as you can see it is now, because the last thing you want is to have a taxonomy like this, which categorizes the properties, and then you actually say people don't have to select something. Next up, we've got 3 options that are useful. Create terms allows someone using our front-end form to create a new taxonomy term. Up to you whether you want to use it based upon your use case. Save terms, as you can see, connect selected terms to the post. In other words, if they create a new term, is it going to be linked and saved as part of the post? And then finally, load terms, which says load values from post terms. In other words, to pull in the taxonomy data for those different groupings. So we're going to set those 3 to yes. Everything else is left exactly as it is. You just need to repeat that for every single taxonomy type that you want to allow the end user on that front end form to be able to use. So just bear that in mind. Now with that in place, we're now ready to move on and start to insert the form. So what we're going to do is we're going to come to the pages section into all pages, and I've created a placeholder page which is called submit new property, and we're simply going to come in and edit that with Elementor. Once that opens up the Elementor editor, we now have our basic page set up, and we're going to come in and search the widgets, and we want the front end form. So you can see ACF front end form. Drag and drop that into our layout, and we've now got the options we need on the left hand side. The first thing we can do is choose the action for this particular form. You can see if we open this up, we have 5 options available. We've got edit post, edit user, new user, and edit term. In this example, we want to choose the new post, and we will cover the edit post a little later. And in a separate video where I'm going to show you some more advanced tools that you can use this plugin with, I'll show you things like edit user, new user, and edit terms and so on. So for now, we're going to say new post. Then we've got the redirect after submit. And all this really means is what action do you want to do once someone actually submits this post? We have 3 options: to reload the current page or post, to send it to a custom URL, which could be something like a thank you page, or you can send it through to the new post URL. Now, we're going to set this up so new posts are set as being pending review, so they don't automatically get added to the site. But if you use the new post URL, if you have a template set up like we do to display these property listings, then this will take you over, show the data inside there, so it'll look like the end result that the person submitting the form would actually see once that's been submitted and confirmed and approved. It's up to you how you want to work with this, and like I say, there's 3 options to give you everything you need. We're going to say new post URL. You then have the update message, so you can set this up to be whatever you want. So you can see it says this is for the updates, but you can set that to whatever kind of text you want to use in there. Next up, we've got the fields option. I'm going to click to expand that. Now the first thing is the title. You can see by default it's pulled in edit post. You can change that to whatever you want, but because we've already got a heading at the top, I'm simply going to empty that from there, and that just removes it directly from inside our form. Now, underneath the ACF fields, we have 2 options. The first is field groups, which because we created our ACF field groups, things like property listings, and we've got things like the agent details and so on, you can choose field groups, and then you can come underneath, click, and you can see any of those ACF field groups you created as part of the site, and you can simply choose those from there. That will then pull in all of the ACF fields that are part of that particular ACF field group without you having to do anything at all. If you wanted to, though, you could come in and choose fields, and then you can come down here and you can pick and choose the fields that you want from all the ones that you have available throughout your ACF setup. So you can see it shows you these are inside the property details, this is inside the agent details, so we can see exactly what ACF field group any of these fields are being pulled from. For me, for this example, we're going to use the field groups option, and we're going to come down and we're going to select property details. So that's now saying all of the fields inside the field group property details. And you can see that now pulls in all that data. I've had to do nothing other than just select where I want to pull the data from. So crazy easy to do. Then we've got the submit button, which we can dynamically set if we want to, in the same way we could dynamically set the form title. However, what we're going to do is we're just going to say add new. If we scroll down to the bottom, you'll see our button now says Add New. Okay, so that's all the normal fields that we want to pull in from ACF, and you can see it also brings in the title field. So if we expand the post option, inside there we have 4 different settings, and these are for the normal default WordPress post type entries. So for example, the post title, the post content, featured image field, and the post excerpt field. Now, if you are used to working with ACF, Advanced Custom Fields, you'll know that WordPress just considers, even though it's a custom post type, it just considers it as being another post. So in other words, you can still utilize things like the title field, the content field, and so on. And that's what we're going to do next. So we want to say we want the post content field. You can see we have 3 options. Default post content field, which is what you'd find as part of WordPress itself, the native functions. A custom ACF field, so you may have set up a custom ACF field that you're going to use to replace that title. You could then choose it from there, or you can set it to none if you just don't want to use that particular field type. We're going to set this to default post field content, and the same then for the featured image. But we are going to leave the excerpt field entry empty even, or set to none, because I don't use that as part of this setup. So you can see we've got title, content, and featured image alongside now our custom taxonomy for the property type and all the ACF fields that we've set up, including things like multi-select options, the Google Maps search option, a property gallery, right the way down to the property agent, where we can choose that from there. We've got multiple different agents. All that's been pulled in without having to do anything. So the final 2 things we have underneath the post section is the new post type. I'm going to click to expand that, and you can see any custom post that we've got and any of the native options as part of WordPress are all listed inside here. So we've got things like post and page, which are native functions. We've also got property and agent, which are our custom post types. We're going to choose property. That will now link that through to the property custom post type. And the final thing we have to set under this section is the new post status. By default, anything that's added will go into draft status, so it won't automatically be added to the website. However, we can change that, and we can choose from draft, private, pending review, or published. We're going to say this is going to go into pending review. So once I select that, now any post that's added using this form will automatically be placed into pending review. Then the moderator, the person that's actually administering the site, can go in, check those pending review options, and then choose to actually yes or no that particular entry. Now the next tab we have is the option for permissions, and this is just basically setting up who can use and who can view this particular page and the content that's going to be on it. In other words, this particular form. You can see we have 3 options for who can see this. We've got only logged in users, only logged out users, and all users. Well, obviously, because we don't want this to be available to anybody, we're going to set this to only logged in users. So as long as someone has an account as part of your website, then they can access this, providing this selected role is available inside these permissions. Currently, it's set to be administrator only, but we can, if we want to, set up any of the normal roles you have as WordPress sort of defaults. So editors, authors, contributors, and subscribers, and so on. So you can set the permissions based in there. Or you can actually select by user. So if you had administrators that you wanted to give access to, you could set this up and only specific users could access this. However you want to set it up, you can mix and match these various different things together to get exactly what you want and limit and restrict who can get access to this particular form. The final option we have then to choose from is the dynamic selection. By default, this is going to set post author, but you can, if you want to, come in and you can search for dynamic selections. Now, we're not going to worry about that. We want to limit this so only the post author can edit content in the future. Now, this is uploading new content, but when we come to take a look at the editing, we only want the person to edit these on this particular front end part to be the author, not someone else. Hope that makes sense. We then have the WP uploader. So what this is allowing us to do, you can see, is whether to use the WordPress uploader for the file fields or just a basic input option. It's just up to you whether you want to allow the end user to use the media library or not. Now, speaking of the media library, we can set up media privacy from here as well. So we click on the click here, we'll open up a new tab, and inside there we've got an option that says filter media by author. If we select that, anyone that's actually using this form, when they go in to upload something else, as long as they're logged in like we've set up, they will only see any files they've uploaded. They won't see all of the files that everybody's uploaded into the media library. So this is a great way of restricting who can see what and just making sure they can only see it files that they've uploaded previously or they upload as part of this particular submission of the form. So I would recommend you set that to be yes and save the changes inside there. But obviously if you've got an open platform where anybody can share the images, you wouldn't need to set that up. So let's come back out of that. So we now have two more options. The limit submit is a pro only version. So you'd need to have the pro version of this plugin to be able to limit the number of submissions that any particular user could make at any one time. Next up, we have the display options, and this allows us to create this form and set it inside a modal window. Now for this example, I don't want to use that, but I'm going to show you an example a little later where we create a custom loop or use a custom loop that's set up as part of Elementor Custom Skin, another great free plugin where we can list all the different posts out, have a button on there that allows you to edit that particular post, and we can have that open up in a modal window. But you can, if you want to, if you enable that, you see your form disappears and is replaced with an edit button or whatever you want to change that modal text button to. We'll set that to no for this example, and we're simply going to hit update. We've now created that form and set everything up, including the permissions. So let's take a look at this in action. So I've come over to the front end of the site, reloaded the page, and as you can see, everything is now set up. We've got the title for the property, the content, we've got the featured image option. All the tabs that were set up originally inside our ACF custom field groups are all available inside here. So the basic details, the gallery, and so on. So you can see we can select the property type from all the property types that are available. We can multi-select anything we want from inside there. Prices, property address, we have the map that's linked through to Google Maps. We've also got all these options, and if we scroll right down to the bottom, you can see we've also got the option for choosing who the sales agent or the property agent is for this particular property. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly fill out some details inside here, and then I'm going to jump out to the dashboard underneath the property section and show you what happens once you've submitted this data. Okay, so I put all the details in. If we scroll through, you can see everything is set up. We jump over between the tabs, you can see there's my images from my gallery, all set up nice and neat. Everything is laid out tidy. So what we're going to do is click on Add New. Providing everything is in place, that will then submit that data, put it into pending review status, and then take us over to what the page would look like with all the details filled out. And you can see everything is now filled out inside here. The image at the top, the description, the location using the map, any of the features that we've got, the property gallery, and also the link through to the agent, which we can then directly contact from here. And again, like I say, if you'd like to see how I've created this and how I've set things up in a lot more detail, check out that video on creating this real estate-based website. So the end user, now once they've submitted this, they can get to see what it looks like. Obviously, no one else can see it because, well, it's just basically a preview of this particular property. It's not going to be part of our listings and so on. So if we come back over into the dashboard and we'll exit out of Elementor, go back into the dashboard itself and come into our properties section. So we say all properties. And if we scroll down, you can see we now have Wingnut Towers, which is set as pending. All the relevant details are set up inside there. So if we click to come in and edit this particular property, all the data we've submitted on that front end form is now listed inside here, right the way through. Property agent, maps, everything is set up. So it's super easy to link that through to this particular property setup, to link the form through, to make the whole process just insanely easy. You don't even need to go through the process of adding all the fields that you want to from ACF. It pretty much automatically does that for you. So that's the first part. We've seen how to submit the data. We've seen how that goes in. Now let's take a look at how we can edit data. Now, when it comes to editing the content that's been uploaded, to let the end user edit their content on the front end of the site without having to go into the dashboard, this plugin makes it easy, but you do need to give it a little thought before you start creating things. Now for this example, we're going to be using Elementor Custom Skin and use that as part of a custom loop. Now what I would do is I would create a dashboard for the end user. They could log in and see all the posts that are associated with their particular account. And we will take a look at that in its own dedicated video. We're going to take a look at creating a fully custom dashboard using this plugin, some other tools, but I will be showing you that in a lot more detail. For now, we're going to keep the example fairly simple. We're going to use that Elementor Custom Skin. We've created a loop already, and we're going to use that to simply add in an edit button. But it'll only be available to anybody that has content uploaded and associated with their specific account. Nobody else will see that option when it's not their data. Hope that makes sense. So I've come into the theme builder section of Elementor in the dashboard, and we've got a default property loop, which is just simply using Elementor custom skin to create a custom loop template. We're now going to go in and add in that edit button. So what we're going to do is, where we've got this information by here, we're simply going to come back over, we're going to search for that front end again. We're going to drag and drop that underneath our entries on there. Now, you can sometimes have a bit of an issue with this. So what I'm going to do is just open up the navigator, and we're just going to position this where I need it to be. So drag that so it's underneath everything. Because like I say, we don't want this to be evident to everybody, and we don't want the form to be open by default. So once we set the options up, we're then going to just make sure we fine tune this to get exactly what we need to make it nice and streamlined for the end user. So the main action is edit post. That's perfectly fine this time. What we want to do again after submit, so you can see we've got all the same options pretty much available to us. We're just changing this over from adding new content to editing existing content. So we're going to say reload the current post page. So we're going to leave that set there. We leave the message that says your post has been updated. Going to come over to our fields. Field groups is perfectly fine. We're going to choose property details again. Update again is perfectly fine. Come down to the post section, we're going to link up any of those normal WordPress post fields. So if you remember, we've got the title, the content, the featured image, but not the excerpt. Post to edit, current post is fine, or you can say select post. It's up to you what you want to do. So we can say current post. Delete post option. Do you want to allow people to delete their posts? This is something that's entirely up to you. I'm going to leave that set to no for this example. Permissions, again, you can see it says only logged in, so you have to be logged in. We can set the role we want to have in there. So like I say, we've got this set up as administrator, but you can set that up to anybody, any role that you are using for this. I'm going to remove the select by user, and you can see the dynamic selection. This is where this comes into play. It says post author. So when you are logged in, if you're the author of a particular post, custom post type, WordPress post type, doesn't really matter. You have to be that before you'll see this button. Okay, so we've set up those rules. Again, you've got the option for media privacy. We're going to leave that as is. Limit submit is not available to us because it's a pro only option, but display options, we're going to say show in modal, and we now just get the edit button. Now, obviously you can style these buttons and do all the kinds of things that you want. Now, speaking of styling, if you're wondering about the form, how you can style this, this is one of the limitations of the free version of this. So if you want full control over styling this, and you want to have things like multi-step forms, which is coming in a future update, which I believe is towards the end of January 2020. So if you see this after that, that feature should be included. But that's only available in the pro version. However, the free version brings a lot to the table, and speaking to the developer, there's also a lot more to come. So keep your eyes posted on this one. Okay, so we've done that. Now we're going to hit update. We don't want to add any conditions because this is just a template for our loop. So we say save and close. We've now created that edit option. So I've now hopped over to the front end of the website. And if we come into any of the listing sections, so we're going to say flats to start off with, this is going to show us the listing that uses that loop that we've just created, that custom template, and you now see that we've got the edit button available. However, if you're not logged in, you won't see that, and I'll show you that in a moment with a different browser. But let's just say we want to edit this particular apartment. We can click on edit. We now get that modal pop-up, and inside there are all the same options we had available to us. So if we say we've changed who the actual property agent is, we'll just click, we'll get rid of Betty Loop, and Dave Doe is going to be the new one. Hit update. Once that's done, provided everything is in place, we've now got that updated. And if we come in and take a look at this, we should now find that that particular property has the details updated. And you see now, Dave Doe is the new agent. Betty is no longer employed on this particular property. So super, super simple. So I've now opened up an incognito window where I'm not logged in, and we'll do the same thing again. We'll come over and take a look at the flat section. And inside there, you can see there's 3 properties and no edit button is available because I'm technically not logged in because I'm using this particular incognito window. So you can see that those restrictions are in place. So the end user will see nothing, but you as the administrator or someone that's actually maintaining and administering the site, you will get access to that edit option, but only on the posts that you're the author of. So really, really cool, really, really simple to do. But tying it into something like Elementor Custom Skin just allows you to create a way more streamlined, nice user interface. And if you did link this through to a custom page that only you as a logged in user would have access to administer the content you've uploaded, then you could set this up in any way you want and have those edit buttons in there. So you can get really quite cool with how it all works. Well, there we go. That's how we can take one free plugin and how we can tie that into our advanced custom fields, WordPress, and create a really nice, clean and simple way to be able to manage, add and edit content. So what do you think of this plugin? Is it something you've tested yourself? Or do you think it's something you would use in a future project? Or could you see it replacing a plugin you already use? Let me know in the comment section below. Tell me all about your experiences with this and what you think this plugin is going to be useful for. As always, I'd love to get that conversation started. Well, all the applicable links for this and everything else we cover on the channel are in the description below. If you use any of the affiliate links on there, it gives a small percentage back to the channel, costs you absolutely no more money, but does help us create more great content moving forward. As always, my name is Paul C. This is WPTuts, and until next time, take care.